You're watching Raptors Today. I'm joined by the legends, the crew, Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. I'm Savanna Hamilton. And let's get to it. OG signed a good chunk of change last night. 72 mil. Let's go. But I want to get into it with you guys. Jones, I'm going to go to you first. What can you say about OG and the Raptors, signing this deal at the very last minute?
It happens all the time, Savannah. Last minute signings. I remember, I think it was DeMar DeRozan one year, or I remember one player actually signing the extension literally minutes before he walked out onto the floor. So this is always the MO. It comes down to the last minute. What I like is OG is a guy that the Raptors drafted. He was coming off an injury. There were some questions when they drafted him. Medical staff did a great job helping him get healthy. They saw the potential in him. It's unfortunate in the second year of his time in the league, he actually didn't get a chance to play and show himself. He had the appendix issue, actually didn't play in the playoffs, had the personal issues at the start of the season. And then last year, we started to see more from him. COVID-19 hits. He hit some big shots in the bubble. You're just hoping for a year where the young man can get some traction and finally get it going. And I'll say this for the front office, good for them. Get him now. Don't let somebody drive up the price over the course of the next offseason. If he has a good year, you've got him locked up. You're working on him. You're developing him. So I like the signing for the front office. I think it's a deal. He may turn out to be a bargain if they get the improvement that they think they're going to get out of him. So good for the Raptors for getting it done. And you've taking care of a guy who's going to be part of a cornerstone of your future for years to come.
Well, I honestly think, guys, that you think about OG and his whole process right now, it was obviously one of those things where they had to wait for the Giannis situation to air itself out. They had to make a decision. And after that, they went right to what they wanted to do, which was get OG signed. And that's a good thing. He deserves it. He's worked extremely hard. He's put himself in position, and he's bounced back from multiple situations that could have derailed him. So you really appreciate his intestinal fortitude and his commitment to being a good player. And this is a great opportunity for him. That year that Pascal took off in terms of his game with Kawhi Leonard, we were sitting in training camp watching OG Anunoby and saying, he looked much better this year. He has a chance to kind of simulate what Pascal and eventually did. So it was unfortunate. He got banged up. He had issues health-wise, but he deserves it. And this is a great, great signing for the Raptors organization. They've done this with players that they've developed. They haven't let them get away very much. They've taken care of them, and that's kind of the MO of the Raptors franchise.
Now, you guys both mentioned it. There's been a lot of progress with OG. Now, let's take a look at this board because this is proof that his stats have even gone up in the past couple of seasons here. We look from 2017 all the way up to where he is today, 10 points per game. Looking at his minutes, he's gained about 10 more minutes per game, steals, rebounds, everything has steadily improved. And you could tell that. Now, OG addressed the media earlier today. So let's check out what he had to say.
Just not knowing what the future holds and just securing something instead of risk reward,
Well, now that you and Fred and Pascal are under contract long term, I wanted to know what it's been like coming up with those two guys and sharing in the successes that you've already had individually and as a team, and how much you're looking forward to growing together as a trio over the coming years.
Oh yeah, so they were second year players when I was a rookie, so we all started off the same, and then we've all just been growing and stuff. It's been cool to see. We all work really hard. We've all been happy for each other, so it's cool to see, and we're excited for the future.
You've had the chance over the years to play with some of the bigger, prominent players from the previous era in the organization, guys like DeMar and Jonas Valanciunas. How much did those guys help you, not just in terms of basketball stuff, but in terms of understanding what to expect from the organization and what the organization expects from you?
Oh, they definitely just set the standard and let me know what was going on. Let me know how I should be doing things and stuff. Serge helped me a lot. JV, Mark, CJ, those older guys, DeMar, Kyle, they all helped me a lot. So I really appreciate them.
Oh, words from OG. Now, as excited as he seems to be, there's actually tons of excitement on Twitter this morning. I know I am, but there's a lot of new changes that come with this season, being, coaching style, new players, new arena. This is a lot of factors coming in here. So, Sherm, I'm going to go to you first. What are your expectations for this season, especially with the new changes?
Well, beyond kind of putting a number on wins and how deep they go into the playoffs, I think ultimately the expectation that I have with this team is to continue to play hard and continue to grind it on the defensive end. And I think offensively, there are some things to figure out, and we're going to talk about them later in the show. But you're not going to fall into offense and be that team that you want to be right away. But the effort and the defensive side of the basketball is something that they have to be consistent with. Their margin for error this season is much smaller than the previous few seasons because of the talent change and because of how this roster is built. So they've got to be very good. And when they're not good offensively, they've got to hang their hat defensively and make sure that they can stop teams. So that's my expectation. They're going to be a hard-working team that's going to bring it on a defensive end. And when their offense kicks in, they're going to be a real handful for a lot of teams.
Sherman, I agree. Look, the Raptors have established something over the last 7 or 8 years as a playoff team. They've established a style of play. Everybody talks about, Nick being an offensive guy. He's talked about it openly, paying attention to the defense and making sure that you can get stops. And if you can get stops, you can get out and run. You can get easy baskets off live ball turnovers. So I expect them to be right where they were last year in terms of the effort, the style of play, the commitment to defense. And this is this is a word that we throw around a lot, culture, but it's a cultural thing with the Raptors. You bring guys in, you say, look, we've won a championship. We know these things work. Playing hard, working hard at the defensive end, playing together, sharing the ball. These are tenets and pillars that we build our team success on. So when you come in, this is what we are expecting you to do. And I don't expect any of that to change this year going forward. I expect them to be a playoff team, potentially pushing in the top 4 for home court in the first round, and then we'll see what happens.
And all those things that you're mentioning, I feel like that really stems a lot from the coaching style and how Nick Nurse has run this team like the past couple of years. He spoke to the media today, so let's listen in real quick.
Steve, this is what we wonder about and why we line up to play them. I'm thinking we were probably in a similar-ish situation last year. I don't think anybody thought super highly of our team going into last year. What I do know is we compete very hard, and we got a really good core group of guys that's won a lot of games, and they know how to win. My job is to piece in some guys around those guys and find the right guys to be on the floor the majority of the minutes with those guys. So I say there's a lot of specialists inside some of these guys, and they certainly show that a lot of times. So I'm excited to see the ball go up for real and watch us bring out our real competitive edge that we seem to play with, and see where we are. Well, I would say there's certainly a lot of work being put into it right now, Steve. I think that last year we learned pretty quickly in training camp when we had about 8 or 9 new faces that those 8 or 9 new faces didn't have really any idea of who we were, what our identity was, how we played, what our defensive schemes were, et cetera. So, we immediately kind of started having, I don't call them two-a-days, but they were kind of like two-a-days for the new people, just to try to get them up to speed. So we've been doing the same thing this year with all the new faces and young guys and such. We're just trying to take advantage of the practice time and accelerate their growth so that when we do need them, they're ready to go out there and at least execute on one side of the ball. Doug, I think Serge and Mark were pretty much at the opposite end of the spectrum, right? I mean, Mark was a guy that once you got it to him, and we got it to him early in the offense, we were looking to see what he was going to do with it or who he was going to deliver it to next, right? And I think Serge was out there setting screens and going into space and was primarily pulling the trigger, a lot, and his 17, 18 footer along with his 3-point range he did that stuff at a super high level. So again, they kind of used their skills appropriately. From what I've seen so far, Len's a little bit more of a roller like Boucher. He's going to roll. Chris is going to roll dynamically. Len's going to roll a little bit more and be at the end of pick and rolls at the basket. Baynes is a really good screener. I think our guards will get shots more. I think, again, they're like talking about all five of those bigs, including Serge and Mark. They're all different in their own way, and we just gotta use their strengths to the best of our ability as a team and how it looks, and go from there. Well, I think.
Now, to cut off the coach there for a second. Now, Sherm, Nick Nurse touched on it. Aron Baynes, he wants him to be in the mix, and so does Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry even said he wants Baynes to have a career season this year. How do you feel like that relationship will develop on the court and translate?
Well, if it's any indication, let's just look at the relationship between Serge and Kyle. And when Serge got to Toronto, Serge was kind of trying to figure things out offensively, and Kyle just kind of went to him and said, we're going to take care of you. We're going to make you feel comfortable. And you could see how Kyle worked with Serge and continued to give him shots in spots that he knew he was going to make him successful. And I think when Kyle says that about a big man, it's because he understands the value of what a big man does for him, getting him open, creating space for him, making sure that defenders can't really stay on top of him. And I think Aron Baynes is a guy who you're really going to have to put him in situations that are more straight line than you would for a Serge, but Kyle can do that. And Kyle is shown to really make big men understand that he is going to utilize their skills to the best of their ability. And when Kyle says that as your leader and your point guard, if you're Aron Baynes, you've got to be very happy about that, knowing that the opportunities are going to be coming.
Trust me, as a former post player myself, that's music to my ears when my guard's saying, I'm gonna send you the ball.
Yeah, you're right.
Jonesy, I want to get your reaction to what Aron Baynes had said to media yesterday.
And through 3 games, how comfortable are you? I mean, I know it's not a long preseason, but where are you at?
Not a long one at all. This is perfect. I think every year preseason gets shorter, so it's a good thing. Looking forward to getting out there and playing. And right now, there's some deficiencies within our offense in terms of, we're still trying to learn each other's games and find how we can play alongside each other. But Kyle is, he's the head of our offense, and he's definitely able to go out there and facilitate a lot of things. And so the more we get to play out there and get running together, it's going to be a good thing, and that'll come along. But defensively is where we're going to, for me personally as well, that's where I hang my hat. And I think that's our ticket early on, is to really get locked into the defensive side of things. And even over the course of the last game, I saw we made some great steps in the right direction. And, early on, defense is going to be the cornerstone for most teams, I think. Offense is everyone comes into this league really focusing on offense, and guys have got into this league by scoring. But the longer you be in here, you see that the teams that are successful
Well, what I found most interesting there was Aron Baynes talking about Kyle Lowry being the leader. You heard Sherm say it. Kyle is very old-fashioned in his point guard thinking in some senses. Point guards get big people involved. Kyle did it with Jonas Valanciunas. He had a little bit of a reprieve with Marc Gasol because he and Mark were probably on the same wavelength from an IQ standpoint, and Mark certainly liked to do some playmaking, but he got Serge involved, and I think he's going to do the same thing with Aron Baynes. And Aron is looking forward to that, knowing that he's playing with a guy like Kyle Lowry, a guy who's very good at in terms of his leadership and getting guys involved. So this is big for Aron Baynes, and he's going to have a career year if Kyle Lowry can help it. He's going to work very hard. He's not one of those guys that needs to be fed in that sense. Baynes is a guy, if the ball is up on the glass, he'll go get it. He's a self-starter in that sense, but he'll always take any help, particularly when it's coming from your leader like Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, you said it right there. He's a self-starter. And you know what? I get the same impression from Malachi Flynn, who also spoke to media today as well. So let's take a listen.
Yeah, I mean, really all of them. Kyle, Fred, they're in my position, so I tend to be around them a little bit more, getting knowledge from them. But really, all of the guys have helped me in some sort of way. Terrence Davis has even helped me out, just coming off his rookie year, just kind of telling me what to expect, different things like that. So I would say everybody in general. Yeah, just on the court things. I mean, TD just is we talk a lot. And he just tells me kind of just be prepared for anything. You never know what's going to happen during the season. But when it's your time, be ready for the opportunity. Trying to take it one game at a time. It's a long season. Something that I haven't been accustomed to in college. It's like 2-3 games a week. So for me, I'm just trying to look forward to really every game. There's somebody on the other team that is a star player or a good player. So there's really no nights off. Just be ready when my number's called. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to say what my role will be or what to expect when the season hasn't started. So for me, just whenever my name is called, just be ready for that.
That was the rookie Malachi Flynn. Jonesy Sherm, we'll be back in a second, man. This is RTX. I'm joined by Blake Murphy, writer for The Athletic. Blake, so nice to have you.
Thanks for having me on. It's lovely to be back.
And it looks like you were down watching a preseason game already in Tampa. What was it like watching the Raptors home away from home?
Yeah, it was. I mean, first of all, it was very, very nice to be back to live basketball for the first time in like 9 months. I think the last game I went to was their road game against the Kings on that trip in March when they were in Utah right before everything shut down. So very nice to have live ball back. Obviously, I'm okay doing Zooms and watching on TV and stuff, but you miss a little something not being there live. And even with only, like people there, it was still cool to be back in that atmosphere, to hear the sounds, all that stuff. The crowd is going to take some getting used to, though, with like 3,000 people or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sure that that stadium must feel like super empty. Let's talk OG Anunoby. We have to go as we move this because I want to get to the good stuff. OG Anunoby, he signed his $72 million contract for the next 4 years, extension, I should say. Is this a win-win for both sides of, OG and the Raptors? And also talk to me about the cap space this summer.
Yeah, so that was the big thing for the Raptors, was how much could you sacrifice in cap space next year to lock OG in at a discount this year? So, there's a certain price at which both sides would have been like, you know what, we'll wait until next summer and get this figured out. And I think you could have managed the relationship there fine, and there wouldn't have been any hard feelings. But this is a much better situation for both sides. OG locks up $72 million, which is, life-changing money for him and his family. $18 million a year isn't nothing. He probably could have commanded more than that as a restricted free agent next summer. But there's a lot of security in this. And then if you're the Raptors, you've lost about $4.5 million in extra flexibility next summer. But with all the guys who have come off the market already, all of the young guys who signed extensions similar to OG's or for more for comparable or even lesser players than OG, that's a sacrifice you're willing to make, to lock this guy up. A guy who also the franchise is very high on continuing to grow from here.
Talk to me about who you are most excited about watching this year, out of all the new Raptors, I should say.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm very high on Malachi Flynn. I was thrilled that he slipped to the Raptors at 29. I know that they had him high on their board. And this, the organization, it hasn't been universal. Some guys haven't worked, but they've been a little bit of a point guard factory, developing guys who have some similar shortcomings and some similar strengths. Now, I don't think, I think the Fred VanVleet comparisons are a little too plain just because aside their games aren't that similar. Yeah, the games aren't that similar. It's just the height. And as
go into this.
What's that?
Go into it. I want to hear more. What do you see the biggest difference in the two games?
Yeah, I think the big thing is the pick and roll play for Malachi Flynn. And I think Fred was a superior defender at this stage and a more natural, volume 3-point shooter, especially with the pull-up. But Malachi's got more pick and roll craft, a little more pick and roll savvy. And if you look at what the Raptors have needed in the half court in those second units the last couple of years, it's a guy who can run a pick and roll, get his bigs some easy buckets, so you don't have to rely on Lowry and VanVleet for 35, 36 minutes a night. So not sure Flynn will be in the rotation every night out, but I think he's going to be a really exciting guy to watch.
NBA.com released their annual GM survey who asked, who's the best assistant coach in the NBA? And Chris Finch came in second. And he's pretty new to the Raptors, so what can you tell me about him?
Yeah, he has a long-time relationship with Nick Nurse, both coaching against each other and together in the G League in Europe. They were both a part of the Houston Rocket system. So the most interesting thing about Finch is on the offensive end. He was in Houston as they designed an offense around James Harden. He then went to Denver in Nikola Jokic's second year as they tried to maximize him. Then he was in New Orleans for the Anthony Davis-DeMarcus Cousins pairing, and then Zion's first year. So this is a guy who has some experience getting the most out of his top scorers. And I think if you look at where Pascal Siakam struggled a year ago, getting him involved and getting him attacking in more creative ways where it's not just, hey, here's the ball, go get a bucket. I think that's going to make life easier for Siakam. I think it's going to make the Raptors a little more dynamic too.
And as you know, the Raptors, they aren't the favorites this year, unfortunately. Very surprising, I know. But what are some reasonable expectations that we could see? What does success look like for this season with them?
Yeah, I think, obviously it's great if you can make a playoff run. And I think I picked them to make it to the second round and finish tied for second or third in the East. They're going to be a good regular season team. I think the far more important thing, though, is how do Van Vliet, Siakam, Anunoby, and even Flynn a little bit, how do they come along? Because the big question this year is this core enough to open up your next contention window? And, Kyle Lowry's a free agent. They have a lot of cap space this coming summer, even after the OG extension. So they kind of need to find out, what does a core of those three project as, or those four project as? And that's, there's not a win total to that. There's not an offensive rating to that. It's more of a feel thing. But you need to know just how far you can go with these guys without adding another piece. Or if you do have to add another piece, what style of player do you need to add to this group?
I appreciate that, Blake. Thank you for your time here on RTX. Hope to have you back soon. The Raptors tip off on Wednesday against the Pelicans, away from home opener. Now, the game goes on at 7:30 p.m. on TSN. You can catch our guys, Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton, of course, on the radio. Pre-game is on NBA TV Canada and TSN. Now, flipping over, take a quick look at the Pelicans starting five. So much talent across the board. Bledsoe, Steven Adams, so much. I'm going to go to you first, Jonesy. Who should the Raptors focus on defensively?
How about all of those guys? And when you look at it from a team standpoint, those are all dangerous guys. I would say the point of attack with Lonzo Ball, maybe trying to slow him down, make it difficult for him. You certainly have to be, aware of Zion Williamson, but Lonzo Ball is the guy to me that initiates the offense. He'll be running screen and roll stuff. And then when he's not doing that, Brandon Ingram's a guy that can just face you up and try to take you off the bounce. So for the Raptors, I think the biggest thing is, regardless of who they choose to focus on, try to keep your guy in front of you. Make sure you've got five guys on a string defensively. You can rotate, help, close out. This, again, we'll go back to what we talked about before. The Raptors need to play their defense with the same characteristics and the same tenets that they played it with for years in the past. That's the thing that's going to make them successful. I don't know if you can really focus on one guy, but you've got to do it together.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, that Steven Adams pickup is a big pickup for this team. I think they're going to be big, they're going to be physical in the front line, and they're going to be long. And I think that really frees up Zion and Brandon Ingram to really roam a bit and use their length in different ways instead of having to be the focal point. But if you're the Raptors, stay in attack mode. It's not going to be about New Orleans. It's going to be about you and what you do consistently in order to try and get to where you need to get to this season.
Thank you, Jonesy and Sherm. And thank you guys, the viewers, for watching another episode of Raptors Today. Catch you guys later.